Yo, what's up, good people? It's your boy Hoon Boon, and this is the Hold Up Show. Hope everybody is having a blessed day, enjoying the day the Lord has made. I hope everyone is striving towards their goals. I hope everyone has took a step in progressing to be a better version of themselves. I hope that you are out here practicing being the blessing to someone else, because you never know what a kind word or gesture could do for someone's day. So please live in that moment. I wanted to get on here today, talk to my people, let them know how I'm feeling. You know? Today I wanted to talk about being a good person, but a bad companion. And I've realized throughout all my relationships that I carry the trait of being a bad companion. And I want to say that part of that, or the start of it, is some sort of trauma-based trigger. But I am not going to use that as a crutch. Because I learned that I had a lot of these bad companion traits maybe 15 years ago. And that I was never forced into a situation where I had to really confront myself and confront that toxicity when it came to the relationships that I was in, or even the interactions that I had with women that I wasn't in a relationship with. I had to find that courage and conviction to actually call myself out on it, you know? Because of my state of never really confronting my issues and just coping with things, some of the the toxicity of my player behavior no matter how honest I felt as though I was being with these counterparts that I was involved with at the time, I knew eventually it would be something that would either cost me a good one or the one, or that behavior would come back and bite me in the ass. And I believe all that has transpired. I think I've lost a few good ones. And one of those few good ones might have actually been the one. And my behavior with these player ways finally did come back and bite me in the ass. And I think now that that full body mirror has been reflected back at me, to where as though I can't cope or run anymore. I'm not looking to cope or run anymore. And I look at every situation in life that I felt that happened to me that caused me some sort of internal pain, whether spiritually or emotionally, was meant to happen exactly the way it was meant to happen, to force me to grow. Because I will become real complacent with my behavior. Especially if I was getting away with it. I just think it gets to a point in your life that you can't get away with fooling yourself, but for oh so long. Whether you're getting away with something or not. I just think the spirit becomes polluted with that behavior, and eventually you're going to have to pay the piper, so to say. I mean, I always felt like I had a special form of intuition, or I recognize certain gifts and powers that I may have possessed that I abused in a bad manner. that I may have used in poor taste. Even though my intentions might not have been malicious, it still was a toxicity that eventually caused unnecessary drama. Like I see now, like a lot of the qualities, morals, and just overall essence of who I was as a good person attracted good and bad women into my life. And even though I might have been slow to evaluate between who was a good woman and a bad woman, I still, from the onset, use my gifts and charms in a toxic manner. Even though my intentions were never malicious. I see now that I was able to undress guarded behaviors to reveal vulnerabilities in women. Because I wanted to be vulnerable with them in such a way that my heart wasn't displayed enough to be hurt. Even though if I showed them that side of me, it's because I wanted them to have that side of me. There was still always that trigger that I leaned on to close the door when they got but oh so far. And in closing that door, I would display actions of being a bad companion while still being a good person. At times being guarded with my emotional availability and selfish with my physical desires. love bombing them with periods of my full potential as a great companion, only to shut the door when I felt as though I was becoming too vulnerable. And some of it was just badly taught, or bad influences of masculine bravado, and other parts of it was just being an immature boy, grown boy. And it was like, even though I recognized all this poor behavior so long ago, I just came to the realization that I wasn't man enough then to really stop it. Because I can't blame it on some of the counterparts that I ran into, because they were displaying and doing exactly what they were supposed to do. Whether or not there was some underlying issues or behaviors with them, maybe being a good or a bad woman, when it came to their part as a companion, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. I think that's why there's not as many black marriages or unions or long-term relationships that there used to be, or that we might have perceived that there used to be, because mainly of men's unresolved traumas, or just refusals to address those toxicities to grow up. And it's like, sometimes some men actually do get it at an early age. They actually might have had good influences that told them to build with the woman. Or if you were brazen enough to lay down and have a child, you should be just as brazen to want to have to now build with that woman that you created with. And a lot have walked that path. And then they would get married young. Then in turn to find out that maybe them or the woman wasn't ready to be in that role or to be in that type of union that early. They still felt like it was some living and some growing either party had to do. And then in turn, whoever gets hurt in a situation becomes jaded and starts projecting what hurt them onto others. Whether or not at their core they're a good person or they've been the nice person but could not sacrifice that vulnerability again out of fear of hurt. And it was like since very early on in my first few relationships that I thought that I was handling the right way, because I didn't want to walk into something with a jaded perspective because of the relationships and behaviors that I seen around me, because I always hung with older people and I already seen their toxic, cheating, sneaky ways, that even through all that I still would have the instincts and the wherewithal to actually identify a good woman / good companion. And even when I did find a combination of both, I was still so toxic in my ways that I would fuck it up. And it was like, for the most part, when I would have these conversations with these women, because I always knew I wasn't a small talk type of person, I would be honest with them from the door about the relationship that I had with my mother and the position that I stood in, to assure them that I did not carry my perception of her with me onto all women. That you are walking into a situation where my heart and my emotions towards women was a clean slate. And it was. It was the other masculine bravado toxicity that would take over. That wanting to have my cake and eat it too, but also my way or the highway type of mentality when giving access to a side of me that they fell in love with. That love bombing, vulnerable companion that could serve all their needs on an emotional and spiritual level, not just physically and mentally stimulating them. Because I know all the sayings about if he doesn't have a great relationship with his mom, or if he doesn't have a great relationship with his baby moms, there's something broken there and he has a problem with women and blah, blah, blah. And it's absolutely not true. Because I'm sitting here telling you, if I recognized fully those toxic traits 15 years ago, then I fully understand that I was still making the decision and making the choice to continue to be that way, even when I knew that that wasn't the way to go. That eventually I was going to have to face that full body mirror of myself, or that it was going to come bite me in my ass. And it was like, no matter how much I mentally and physically prepared to face those moments, because I knew they were coming, emotionally and spiritually, there is no way to prepare for that. Because I now know that I was emotionally and spiritually weak, even though I was mentally and physically strong. using my intuition, using my charm, and using my mental toughness and stubbornness as a weapon. It also like caused some type of funny duality in me, where I was treating the good ones bad and the bad ones good. And when I say that, I mean strictly as a companion, not as a good person, because I never stopped being a good person. And it was like, for the most part, now I see that that's why a lot of them tolerated me as long as they tolerated me, because they were waiting for the good companion to catch up to the good person that I always was. And it was like periodically I could recognize when both of those things were in alignment with me at a time with certain individuals. But then I would get to a point, not being mature, that I would let the toxicity take over again when I no longer wanted to be the good companion all the time. When I let my selfish physical desires or started to abuse my intuitive and charms gifts in a negative way. I also seen that I was using the my way or the highway angle when I seen or when I felt as though a person who was a good person / good companion may have done something that I didn't like or that I didn't agree with, that might not have been serious enough for me to go back down that toxicity road against them. Which would in turn come off as a narcissistic trait, to where as though since they did that thing that I didn't like or that I didn't agree with, and the reaction that I had in turn made these good women / good companions feel guilty. was the one that should be guilty and should have adjusted in the correct manner. Sometimes I will also identify in them that sometimes they wanted to cage me away from the world, so to say, because they seen that whatever it was of me being my natural self and me wanting that deeper connection with whoever I was interacting with, even just on a friendship level or just being cool, that they would get jealous because they would see that other female maybe starting to fall for me, or maybe starting to like me, or they just didn't want that to happen, to even have me in a situation where someone may try to proposition me or come and try to take me away from them, because they're recognizing all these good person traits in quote unquote love bombing behaviors, when I was actually just being myself and just looking to really see the person underneath. Even if I wasn't looking to be romantic with you, I was just looking to understand you and have that deeper level of connection with you, to maybe as though to let you know that I am a person you could come talk to on that level, and it doesn't have to be, is he trying to fuck me, or is he trying to get something out of me? And it seemed the more that I didn't want to sleep with them or get something out of them, turned them on even more to wanna pursue that. And eventually some of those situations got me in some awkward situations, so to say. Sometimes I turned them down and sometimes I didn't. And I recognized that that was also something that was hurting me, because I didn't know that I was an empath, that I was spreading my spiritual energy too thin with too many people. Especially when I was in a single status, when I wasn't necessarily spending the majority of my time with one individual. I would find myself being drained and just emotionally tired and physically tired from just spreading myself too thin, giving out my life force to too many. And I think that was a huge part of my spiritual pollution. Always something in the pit of my stomach, feeling as though that I am being called for a higher purpose. Yet, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, even to the detriment of myself. Always looking for that higher purpose on the exterior when it was always within me. I'm looking everywhere else but inside, till inside came looking for me. When inside finally had no choice but to take over, because the external had finally met his match and finally got that ass handed to him. That's like why my message now is like to look within, to find your environment just to be, and then let the love, or let the universe, let love come within that, instead of leading with the character that you might have had of being a good person, but really the under layers are of a bad companion with toxic behaviors or toxic traits or immature bravado. I feel as though I'm really at that point that I can overcome, or I have overcome that immaturity, that I've overcome that trauma-based fear to really love and to really be a good companion. Of course, there's still that fear of giving it to, or not being able to identify who should really have it, who should be aligned with me while I'm being a good person and a good companion, that they are also a good woman and a good companion, and we can fully align that together. But now that I'm walking with faith in the divine source, and I am holding his hand, walking through the darkness, knowing that he is going to lead me to the light, that is no longer a concern of mine of whether or not can I identify this good woman slash good companion. Because the faith I believe in and have is so strong that whoever isn't a good woman and a good companion or isn't aligned will eventually fall by the wayside or reveal themselves before I even get put in a position to be vulnerable, hurt, or even get to a point to even give them that chance. So like I'm giving this message hoping that I can help other men get over this and find that deeper connection with their self, as well as find that deeper connection with whoever they may be attached to now or attached to in the future. To avoid being bit in the ass or having to face that full body mirror at such a time in their life. are to also help them not self-sabotage someone that may already be in alignment as a good woman and good companion, that you can recognize it before it's too late to align yourself with them. So that's my message for today, people. Align your mental, physical with your spiritual and emotional to not only be that good person, but to also be that good companion. Because it will do nothing but better the world. It will do nothing but vibrate a higher level of love frequency between you and your partner, which will not only vibrate between y'all, but vibrate outwardly to the world to also show them that it's still possible. That every day might not be good, but that alignment is so strong and is vibrating so high that you can overcome anything. They say that you should be friends before you become lovers, but I believe that you should become spiritually aligned before you get in a relationship. Because if you can't talk to your partner about any and everything, and I do mean any and everything, if you cannot talk to your partner about any and everything without one or the other of you being triggered, I don't think you should move forward. So I hope this helps somebody. It's your boy Hoon Boom, and this is the Hold Up Show. Peace.